This is On the Overrun, a podcast about cars and the people around them. Join us for a new episode. Shiraz, thanks a lot for joining.
Thank you very much.
We've already had quite a pleasant conversation, just getting to know each other and getting to know what you do and what you're passionate about, and also gotten to know some of the mutual passions and visions we share, especially for car culture and car community in this country and what it's about, and experiencing cars as young guys and being just hooked by it for some reason. These metal boxes with four wheels.
I don't quite understand what captures us about.
I can't tell you.
Yeah, me also.
Because why cars and why not like trees or something else? I don't know. So it's quite an interesting thing. I think psychologically it's a baffling topic, but for some reason causes took our interest, and I mean that's
it's like in that movie, that Formula 1 movie where the guy said, men love women, but men, like cars more, something like that is a term that in one of the Formula 1 movies, I think the movie about Rush is a movie.
Oh yes, I remember.
Yeah, there was a quote that guy made.
Have you watched Ford versus Ferrari?
Yeah, probably about 10 times already.
I can't stop watching it. I think some of my favorite movies, obviously I love cars, so it's going to be car related, but I can watch cars like the animation cars from Pixar. I can watch that over and over, and I won't get tired. Ford versus Ferrari was an insane movie. Have you watched The Art of Driving in the Rain or Racing in the Rain?
Yeah, with the E9 and the dog. I watched that.
Yeah, that is a tear jerker, that one.
So definitely. No, look, even in the 80s when we were growing up, VHS recordings, Knight Rider.
Yes.
Herbie we watched like 1,000 times. Herbie, there was Herbie Love Bug, there was 2 or 3 Herbies. Knight Rider, the Airwolves. So all that car stuff. Gone in 60 Seconds, the old one, the first one with the Mustang,
Bullet.
The yellow Mustang.
Yeah.
So we grew up with all those movies, and it was about cars, and we just loved it.
Yeah. There's quite a few others we can mention as well, but I mean, what's funny thinking about Knight Rider, that's a bit before my time, but that kit car, it's obviously years ago it could do the most insane things, and these days people actually can make cars something like that. And it'll do similar functions, similar ways. All
you
the
talk
lights
to your
shine.
car,
Yes.
Only thing, it's not called Kit now, it's called Siri or something.
Yeah, it's called a BMW. And then start chatting to your car.
Yeah, amazing.
So it's very interesting how that's turned out. But I think, tell me a bit about your experience with cars as a young Shiraz, as a young guy. Like, where did you get hooked? What was your childhood like when it came to cars?
Yeah, I think it's probably about 2-3 years old, driving around. My dad used, what car is that? Volvo. What car is that? Peugeot. In the old 80s. So I've always taken liking to cars. We grew up with a lot of the car magazines. We always used to like, going through the car magazines, and that was something that just caught us as a passion. Growing up, we also had a lot of family members, older than us, obviously, that used to have the nicer cars. And that also brought us closer to good metal, to good cars, to good driving experiences.
Yeah.
And that's basically where it started.
So you actually had it a bit in the family. It wasn't that you were just the...
So I mean, like for example, my uncle bought a brand new 635 that time when it was new. Another one bought a brand new 333 when it was new. The E30s, the Park Shapes, 7 Series, old E3s. That was the 3-liter CS. Not CS, the 3-liter S, the 4-door ones. So, cars like that really got us into the whole car culture and passion for it.
And it sounds like for you it was BMWs from the start.
Yeah, it was BMWs and Mercs. I think BMWs because it was a bit more compact, it was a bit more... the sound of the BMW makes. You take a 6-cylinder, whether it's an old 535 or it's an old 325.
Yes.
The 6-cylinder just captures you, that sound. The sound plus the rear wheel drive plus the whole driving experience. That is what the magic is about the BMW. Before BMW in the 80s, I was actually a Ford guy.
Oh, wow.
So, so if you look at the Fords of the 70s and 80s, XR6s, Capris, XR8s. I mean, in Salt River, you used to get the guys coming doing donuts there in the, the old Datsun Triple S's and those sort of things. So when those Japanese and the Fords went front-wheel drive in the 90s, then we stuck with BMW because BMW was still the rear-wheel drive.
Yeah, so it was still a proper driver's car.
There we go. And if you look at, I don't know if you want to bring this up now, but if you look at the history of BMW in terms of the motorsport division, how they started the motorsport division was they actually took a guy from Ford. Because in the 60s, if you look at the UK and up in Europe, in 60s, Ford was crazy. Ford was at the pinnacle because they brought cheap speed to the masses.
Yes.
Where previously you would have to buy a Porsche or you'd have to buy a Ferrari or whatever. But Ford brought it, to the middle class. Where they brought performance stuff. So they used to race it on the tracks in the 60s. At that time, Jim Clark with the Lotus Cortina, and the guys used to modify it. So if you look at the background of the Ford in the UK especially and in South Africa, it's actually quite big. And BMW noticed that. So there was a guy that was heading Ford Motorsport, and they pinched him to head up BMW Motorsport in the 70s. And that's when BMW started to take off.
So, can you remember what car it was that you obviously took a drive, or you didn't drive it when you were young? But what car was it that hooked you? What was the first really cool car experience?
The trigger for the BMW, I was probably in primary school, so we couldn't drive yet.
Yes.
But in the old car magazine, right at the back there used to be. It was still in black and white. You could order posters of cars. There was like a Ford XR8. So it was all that Sabat and that Winfield and all those racing cars on the track. And that picture of the BMW taking the bend, with the wheels cogged and stuff, that just captured me. And and then also a family member was a big BMW. He was like maybe about 5 or 6 years older than me.
Yes.
And he was a big BMW fan. So he also pursued me into getting. Pushed me into getting the liking for BMW.
So from there on, the model cars started to be collected and started reading everything you can.
There we go. Yeah.
I remember when I was young as well. I shared a bit, but I'm much more of a Mercedes fan because my dad worked for Mercedes. Yeah. So, but it was a similar thing where we would drive past the car and you would ask me what's that? And I would try and answer, and then you would tell me or so on. And in that way, you sort of get to know your cars. And then every time I would read a car magazine, funnily for me, I only really cared about the top speed.
Yes.
I didn't look at anything else. I looked at the pictures and at the stats, what was the top speed.
100%.
And if it's like, even if it's a brand new Porsche, I never really looked at it because they have quite low top speed. Yes, so you'd only really care about Lambos or Ferraris and stuff.
Yeah. And when you see a car that you like as a youngster, you rush to it and look through the window. What is the top speed on the speedo?
Yes, stuff like that. Yeah. So that was, and also, for some reason, I was so intrigued about. I was born in the year 2000.
Okay.
My intro of cars is early 2000, early noughties. So
the cup holder generation.
Yes, and when I would see a car with a screen, a navigation screen, my dad, who worked for Mercedes, so often he would bring home different Mercedes cars.
Yes.
So then I remember the one time there was a new ML.
Okay.
So today it's a GLE, but it's like ML in those days.
Yeah.
With quite a nice big sat nav screen, and it was the most intriguing thing ever. So suddenly tech started evolving and so on. But what would you say is like your golden generation?
Yeah, when we grew up, there was the Siemens had a phone. I mean, there was no even a dream of a cell phone for us regular people that time. Whether they were manufacturing it in the States or in whatever. But for us, we didn't have any indication of a cell phone. So Siemens came out with a box. So you install that box in your car. It had a phone, and then there was an aerial. So every time you see somebody with that aerial on a car, that's one of those up guys, because that was the in thing.
Yes.
Was, do you have a phone in your car?
Yeah. I remember those box phones.
So sometimes we still look. Some of the cars we see still have those aerials. It's like a thin aerial.
Yes.
Stuck onto the boot. That was very cool.
Did you ever use those phones in the cars?
I never. Obviously, family members did have.
Yeah.
And I think you got a card with it. It was, I think, 081 numbers that time. Or something like that, yeah.
So you had to put a card in the phone?
Yeah. You got a card from a provider. And you put the card in, and that card has your number and obviously your airtime to make calls and stuff.
And then you made your calls.
Yeah.
That is the most weird. Well, these days, obviously it's everyone has a phone.
Yeah,
in the
you're
car
driving around. You're even bad from talking, and by that time it was like.
By that time it was the newest thing.
Yeah.
And also that was the like you spoke about the couple, the generation.
Yeah.
But also 90s, 2000s was the year of the buttons.
Yes.
Oh my word! They discovered buttons and everything buttons could do. And so I can think of old Lexuses, old Mercedes that just had them. It was buttons everywhere. And now you often, when you listen to people driving new or modern cars, they complain about all the buttons being taken away because now it's just haptic feedback with touchscreens everywhere.
Exactly.
So it's very interesting how that changed.
Yeah, definitely. So it's something like that I've noticed because I've got an E60 now. So that E60 is a 2005.
Okay.
Right. So I think they tried to eliminate the buttons there because you got the iDrive thing.
Yes,
and that complicated everybody because, it was you have to go into the system to change anything, whereas previously on the previous generation, it was just one button.
Yes.
Now you've got to go into the. But when I drive that car, I feel it's a cleaner look, with no buttons. It's you can focus on driving. If you want to change something, you change it when you want to. You leave it. You don't go back to it. You just So that's the thing with no buttons on that car that I like.
Yeah. But now the problem becomes the tech actually gets outdated quite quickly or within a few years. But I've seen many brands actually allow you to, not retrofit isn't the right word, but you can basically in older cars fit the new technology.
Correct, yeah.
So I know Porsche does that, but BMW probably does that to some extent.
There's an Android system that you can buy. I saw it online. If it doesn't change the look of the car drastically, then I would change it. But if it's going to be something that looks odd and looks like an add-on, then I won't do it. But I need it because sometimes we use a navigation system, and in that old route there's some streets that you don't find.
Yeah.
So when then you got to go to your phone and Google Maps where I would have preferred it to be on the car, So maybe there's an updated CD that you can just plug in and as a new roads or maps or something.
Yes.
Otherwise we'd put that new Android system in.
A lot of cars these days don't even build their own system, like an iDrive system or so on. You just have Apple CarPlay or Android Auto, which is obviously very nice because Apple and Android are the ones responsible for updating those systems, not the car manufacturer itself, which is clever.
Yeah.
But just going off of that, how big are you into car modification? Now, obviously, that stretches far and wide. The term modification, but
so a car for me is very important as a driving tool. So, whatever modifications you do must enhance that driving experience. So, if you're going to maybe an exhaust, make the car sound a bit better, but not too loud.
Yes.
And maybe a lowering a bit. Like, for example, on the E30s, guys would lower on a lowering kit 40 mil. I wouldn't go 40 mil, I'd go maybe 30 mil. So there's subtle modifications, but effective. To me, it's strange that the guy would modify his car, but he can't drive it from Somerset West to Cape Town. That's just...
Or even from his house to
Spa. That's just... Or he's going to drive 40 on the highway or something. That's just crazy. I mean, rather use that money to maintain your engine. Like for me, I must be able to get into a car and drive to Joburg or Durban with that car. If I'm going to do anything modifications to alter that, then no. Engine-wise, not really.
Not really. So you're not really into tuning, not really into...
I think because engine manufacturers have developed the car at its, not at its limit, but at its reliable ability to do 1 million kilometers or whatever.
Yes.
Now when you go maybe increase the power, you're increasing the working of the motor, which you're going to decrease the reliability.
Yes.
You know. So if you want to do a modification, you've got to open up the motor. You got to order all that,
whatever parts.
Parts that are going to cost you double, and install that in order for you to have reliability.
Yeah.
You look at cars, stuff that are going 9-8 seconds down Killarney track, but you can't drive it outside, you know what I mean?
Yes.
So for me, that's modification story.
So it's all about cars a driving tool.
Yeah.
And if it's not aiding that.
Yeah. So aesthetics, sometimes you want to put maybe a bigger wheel on the car, also subtle, not too brash wheel. And that is, so subtle modification will work. Yeah.
One thing I'm always interested about is, and like me and my dad have had this conversation a lot, but chip tuning is obviously a big thing these days. But not even that, like engine modifications like big turbos or so on. So then people would replace a certain part or increase the power or so on. But it's like you say, the manufacturers built that engine with the experience of many, many years of building engines and multiple engineers working on that thing, big corporate companies with well-established systems and processes.
Almost like in a lab, in a hospital lab, they're busy developing that.
So it's always, it feels like you have to be an expert yourself in knowing how to build an engine or how to... there's a difference between the mechanics and the electronics.
No, 100%.
And that already is a big thing. But it feels like you yourself have to be a big expert in those two areas to know when you're going to a tuner or a builder or a modifier to some extent, to know if what they're doing, is legit, will work, has merit to it. So
because
there's just a lot of risk to it, I assume.
With the manufacturers overseas, besides the theoretical that they start with, they do 1 million kilometers of testing, winter, summer, So if you're going to change something, you're basically undoing all that, and you've got to, do that again, because sometimes you do a modification, 2,000 kilometers later, there's a piston to the block, or there's something, that you need to replace.
Yeah.
And that is what I don't want to risk, basically.
Yeah. And also it's a cohesive unit, so change one part, a lot of others get affected.
And the guys overseas, they, in Germany, in the UK, they do it a lot because, in terms of modifications, because those guys were part of the development team in the manufacturing process. So they have the knowledge.
Yeah, that's something different.
To start from scratch, what's going to work, what's not going to work, what's going to be reliable, and all that stuff.
Yeah, and if a lot of people, they do proper jobs with that. And they know what they're doing. But I guess for your average car owner, it's very difficult to discern, whether you're getting a quality product from someone who knows what they're doing.
Correct, yeah.
Or someone tried something and it worked and now they're replicating it. So, tricky one.
So that's the thing. It will work maybe, it will work, for a week or two. You'll have nice power. You'll have a big smile. But then afterwards, would it last,
Yeah.
So that's a big thing.
And
it's costly.
Yes. Well, even if you don't tune your engine, it's still costly. You were speaking about just before we started about the run you did up the Simola Hillclimb.
There we go.
What do you call it? Simola Hillclimb.
Simola Hillclimb.
And you took your E60 M5, which that motor is known to sometimes provide some headaches and issues for the owners. It sounds glorious, so you obviously love it. But maybe chat about that experience. I think that's quite a cool story to tell.
Okay, so we're going to the M5. I bought that in 2018, and I've still got it. I bought it at about 185,000 Ks. I drove it till about 230,000 Ks.
Is that a high mileage with that engine, or is that engine
pretty high mileage?
Okay.
Right. But I don't mind, because I went to go see it. There was a problem with the SMG box, which is another Achilles heel of that car.
Yes.
So knowing that there was a problem, I bought it at a good price. The motor was fine, though. The motor, we drove it, we heard for anything, and then purchased it knowing that there was a problem with the second gear synchro. But with that second gear faulty SMG box, I drove that M5 from Cape Town to George to Joburg and back. All right? That was in December of 2018. So with that car, I did about 50,000 Ks. Lots of open road driving. I enjoy that car on the open road. And then we've always been to the Knysna Hillclimb every May for the last maybe 7 or 8 years as media. And watching it in lockdown when they didn't have it, we were streaming, and always wanted to enter that as a competitor, because I think it will be amazing, and even with the M5 it will be a nice experience for me, with amongst all the other stuff that we did.
Yeah.
So I applied, and surprisingly the response came. We were approved to race in the 2022 Knysna Hillclimb. So we prepared the car, we changed the bearings, bottom end bearings, and on the day that we were going to leave, that's a Thursday that we were going to leave for the hill climb, the crank decided to hold on to one of the bottom end bearings, so the motor couldn't turn. So result from that, new crank, new piston, new bearings, new main bearings, new oil pump.
That's a big job.
Which is opening up the motor. So I saved up, and over about 6 months we got the parts, and then we fitted it, and then I entered the 2023 Knysna Hillclimb because the 2022 was forfeited, and then they accepted my application again, and then we made it to the 2023 Knysna Hillclimb with the M5. There's some videos on YouTube, which I'll forward you the link, and then you can have a look.
So tell me about that drive. How was it different from what you expected? But like, I know even just being in the pits or in the paddock is already a
there's an adrenaline there. One thing I like about it is I've been to a lot of the events around the country, and that one is the special one. It makes you feel like you in a different maybe world, because you get a lot of, it's like all the racing legends come there to meet, in the pits. So there's a lot of different people of different motorsport backgrounds that come to one gathering, and it's almost like a festival, If I could say, it's almost like our Goodwood Festival of Speed.
Yes.
It's something like that. That's what the Knysna Hillclimb has come to be. So very, very fortunate to be a part of that event. Hopefully we'll be a part of it next year again. Let's see.
Yeah.
So I mean, speaking to guys there, when we didn't make the first 2022 one, there was a lot of guys sad there. I mean, like I mailed Chef Goddard, and he was saying, is there nothing we can do? Maybe come with another car. But just when the thing broke, it just put me off.
Yes.
So they were excited to see that V10, because they never had a V10 BMW up there. Nobody's brave enough to take one with the problems.
Because they're so scared, yeah.
But me driving that car for like 5 years, up and down, wherever. So I was very confident with that car.
Yeah.
He did what he did, and we managed to enjoy it after that.
And the drive itself,
Yeah.
Have you had some experience up that hill before?
No.
Or was it sort of first time?
So we like to go and we open road driving.
Yes.
We like to drive fast. But you're driving fast is with a sort of it's a challenge. So that's what I needed to get in, because when you're driving fast on a normal open highway, whether it's illegally or whatever, you just helmet there, protection, whatever. Whereas there, you got to get used to the helmet, you got to get used to the racing suit.
Literally a racing,
And when the thing says go, then you've got to get into focus. Okay, you need to late brake here, go up there. So getting used to the circuit, getting used to the racing line, not crashing, that is your main thing.
Yes,
what I mean?
Don't crash.
Not because there's no barriers there. So if some people have crashed, no fatalities, but if you crash, you're down the mountain basically there.
Yes.
So always that at the back of your head. So the drive I started off was a very slow time, because my first time practicing. But then after the day, I got faster and faster. And then on the Saturday, we do practice runs in the morning. After lunch, we have some qualifying. So you go up, and then you come down again, and every hour you go out. So in the day, on the Saturday, you have about 8 runs.
So 8 runs, is that practice and qualifying?
That's practice and so you have 4 in the morning.
It's quite a lot.
Yeah, I think they could do more in the morning. I've had a chat with them, but in order to manage that, what they do is they park you in the pit, and then from the last pit to the first one, they let the guys out. So that whole process takes an hour.
Yeah, it's very
cars
structured.
To go up, cars to come down, the timing and all that. So every hour we have. Then Sunday morning, it started raining, and I did quite well in the wet weather, even though with that rear wheel drive. I didn't take traction control off. Yes. I left MDM on.
Okay.
So MDM allows you that 1 or 2 slide, but it is traction there. So with that mountain, with that slippery roads, I left.
Which I think is the wise choice.
I didn't brave enough. Maybe some more experience, because that M5, it's the rear wheel drive can bite you quite hard if you're not careful with it.
Yeah.
So I was more careful. But in the rain, I did, on average, when I looked at my time, I did quite good in the rain.
Yeah.
So I want to go back to see if I can better my time firstly, and also just be part of the experience. I would do it again in the M5.
Okay, awesome.
And then maybe later stage, I'll maybe choose another car to do it or something.
Have you had previous racing experience?
No. So we'll do sometimes on-track driving at Killarney, open track. But other than that, no previous time racing experience.
Did this create a bit of an itch to
it did
have more of it?
Yeah, it did, but it's a very costly itch.
Yeah, I can imagine.
Very, very costly.
I can imagine.
So for the time being, that would be okay for now, because that's also not cheap. You've got to sort out your trip going up, your weekend accommodation, and it's 3 or 4 days.
Yes.
Your race entry is also not cheap. So if I could save up for that, for the whole year, that is our racing, how can I say, bite,
Yes.
And that's it for now.
It's something special to look forward.
Yeah. I've got an old E36 that I want to turn into a track car, and there's two race series at Killarney that happens. One is the E36 Cup, and one is the Rallycross. So I can enter one of those with the E36. So it's taking the old E36, leaving the standard motor, leaving the standard box, but just stripping it and getting it roll cage and track ready. And that's when you can have fun,
Yes.
That's what it is.
I think, I've heard of a lot of people who actually buy E36s and make it into quite good track cars.
The E36 is a very strong structure. The handling is fantastic on E36. So turning, that's very, very good. And there's a lot of parts available for that.
Yes.
Because the E30s are they're so expensive and there's no more parts. So you can't do that anymore with the E30. The next best bet would be the E36.
I've seen a bit of a trend with stories like this where people experience racing, start loving it, but they realize they can't do it with their road cars. Even though if they have a great road car or a very capable road car, like the guy I spoke to previously, Valalem, he has a Renault Clio RS 127. So there's a cup chassis.
Yes.
Very capable track car. But for him, it's his road car as well. So he can't do late braking. Can't go too hard into corners, like he has to look after his car as well. So what a lot of people then do is they buy something like an E36 or maybe an old Porsche, whatever it may be, turn it into a track car, have that be your track baby. And then you keep your road cars your road cars.
So you have to.
That seems to be like the good
like at Killarney especially, it's a track very hard on your brakes, very hard on the suspension, very hard on your tires. So, and usually if the brakes go while you're on the track, it's not just pads, it's discs as well.
Yes.
So discs, it's very, very expensive to change every time.
Yeah.
So, but track toys.
But I think to go into the SA Beemer, this is your baby.
Yeah.
This is the passion project.
Yeah.
Maybe tell us how it started, where the idea came from, and then how it's turned out, what's the vision?
So like we said before, we were very young into the BMW cars, right, brand of cars. Looking at magazines from the UK and the US, Total BMW, what's the other one? BMW Performance magazine. Looking through those magazines, I've always thought South Africa has the ability or the passion to be equal, if not better than those UKs, what they showcasing. And I want to showcase our side, the South African side of the BMW culture. And that is how I started SA Beemer. That was the thought behind starting SA Beemer. So we started it as an online magazine. taking photos, galleries, putting it on the website, doing a feature of a guy and his car and whatever, putting that on the website. So that's where the SA Beemer thing started. In terms of having active shows and inviting people, that we started in 2010 at Killarney, where we had our first BMW day, where we took, we see there was a few different clubs in Cape Town. Only BMW, but it's 5 or 6 different clubs. You've got PM Squad, you've got BMW Car Club Cape Town, you had that time exclusively M.
Yes.
So they were all different guys, but the same passion. So I wanted them all to come together one day, every year, just one day. Everybody comes, whether you're a club member, whether you're a non-club member, you're a private guy, but as long as you got a BMW badge on your car, bring it.
Yeah.
Right? So we also get to see a whole different array of BMW cars, people. What is also important for me is that with SA Beemer is you've got the guy that's got an old 316, his car needs a paint work or his bumper scratched, but he's got a family, but he's passionate about it, Then you've got a guy that comes to our run with a brand new M8 or M6, also very passionate. So those same two guys got the exact same passion. Just the one has more money than the other one.
Yes.
But they're both equal. For SA Beemer, they're both equal. Because they have the same passion. And that's what we're about. It's all about the passion for it.
It's all about the passion.
Yeah.
So practically, what does SA Beemer do?
So we'll do maybe features, photo shoots. So if you've got a nice car that you want to showcase, we've got a lot of people that don't want to showcase this stuff. They're very shy, and they've got nice stuff. But you get people that want to be appreciated because people spend a lot of time, a lot of money on their cars. So for them, it's sort of an appreciation post, where all my time, my value is being appreciated by this one or by the group or by people that are just seeing or liking it on a Facebook or Instagram or whatever.
Yes.
And that is, it's to make their reward feel,
Yeah.
like they've achieved something.
And over the years, you've gone into events as well that you host. Far more than just the publication.
We find that the events, so because we do Joburg, Durban, we did Pretoria as well. We went to the Union buildings. Pretoria, Joburg, Durban, Cape Town. We do one event a year. So for example, in Cape Town, we have something called the Tunnel Run, where we all meet up in Cape Town and we drive to Worcester.
Yes, that's
all in
awesome.
A crew. We do it every year. It's around 200 BMWs that join us on the day. So we meet in Cape Town for like an hour or so. This year I had to get a permit from Cape Town City to have that hookup in Cape Town. So we applied.
So just to have the gathering.
Yeah, just to have the gathering.
Sure.
So this year we applied. We got it. They closed 2 roads for us, so we were able to park lekker and leave in a fashionable way, So that was very cool from the city of Cape Town. And on the N1, then we drive through the tunnel, which is a highlight.
Yes.
Because you can imagine a line of straight 6s or a line of V8s or V10s in the tunnel. It's a sound. And kids roll down their windows, they take their cameras.
It's awesome.
And it's an experience for them. Out of the tunnel, then we meet up in Worcester. Chill there, maybe have lunch, people talk about the drive, and then that's it. So we try and do that once a year in Cape Town. And then in Durban, we have something where we go to Ushaka. Ushaka gives us a parking lot there, and then we do a BMW show there. We give away prizes, best E30, best 7 Series, stuff like that. And we're doing that in Joburg as well.
So it's really all about appreciation.
Yeah.
So being come with your BMW.
Yeah.
Cool to see it.
There we go.
Yeah.
For example, the one that we did in Durban 2-3 years ago, we were going to have the event was booked for Durban, and then we were supposed to fly up. I didn't book my ticket yet, so that week I went to one of the guys here, and he had a nice 7 Series, old 7 Series for sale, 89. And I looked at this car, so you can immediately see the car hasn't been molested, or the suspension is straight, everything is neat there. The motor, you start the motor, everything sounds good. So that car, I went to go see it on the Tuesday. I asked Frank called his car, drive to Durban. He said, yes, no problem. And I took the chance. We bought the car Tuesday, and then the Friday, me and the wife left, and we drove up to Durban with the car. It's an 89 model. So it went off quite lekker.
Yes.
735i. And then we drove back with it also. So that's the thing. That basically for me, it kills two birds with one stone, because I take it as a holiday, because open road driving is just like a therapy for me. So you go there, meet all the BMW guys, have your thing on the Sunday, and the Monday come back home again. You know? So it's quite fulfilling to do that. So you get to meet people, you get to see some cool Beemers, you get to meet new faces, and you build a family like that wherever you go.
Have the car clubs, there was certain BMW car clubs / forums when basically before you started, and your idea was to amalgamate, to gather that together. Was there any resistance from some clubs or people?
No, not really, because with the forums, firstly we started 2006 for the E30 Club forum. That was the only BMW forum in the country, and then afterwards, maybe 3 years later, they started the BMW Fanatics forum. So we were part of that also. So anything that we did, we posted on those forums. The E30 guys were very cool with me. Maybe because that time I had a 333, so maybe that's why they were cool. But up until now, we're still friends with a lot of them. I don't know if the E30 Club forum is still running.
Okay.
But I'm still a friend with a lot of those guys. I met a lot of people, there that we're still friends of. We go on runs together.
Yes.
And the BMW Fanatics, that's a more wider audience of BMW guys. You got more the guys with the E92s, the 335s, the 135s, all those type of guys with the M3s, F80s. That's on the BMW Fanatics forum. That I think is still running. But like when I started SA Beemer, that was in 2012. So the whole Facebook thing was running that time, So it was a whole basically open field.
Yes.
Whoever had the best idea, they were going to win.
Yeah.
That's it, yeah. So I just took the whole BMW, how can I say, passion thing, and then just opened it up to a different, how can I say, type of people, making them feel welcome.
Yeah.
And
sort of a broader type of people as well.
There we go, yeah. A broader community.
Have you, you're speaking about open road driving as well. It's something that I love.
I love it, yeah.
Have you guys thought of or done any longer trips more than like...
I would, yeah. I think a lot of the Cape Town guys are scared of open road driving. I don't know why. Maybe they don't want to... They spoilers to get stone chipped or, or maybe
damage along the way.
A lot of guys would rather fly to Joburg than drive, you know what I mean? Because how can you drive 14 hours? Maybe they're lazy, you know what I mean? But because we grew up on the open road from young, my father was a Cape Townian, my mother was a Joburger. So we were always traveling between the two cities. That time we had no aircon, 8 of us in a Chev station wagon,
Yes.
So that basically adapted us to the long road, and then I think I drove it first when I was about 15 or 16. When my dad gave me we had a venture that time, and we drove from Joburg down, and he gave me the stretch from Bloemfontein to I think Three Sisters that time.
Sure.
So yeah, brothers and sisters at the back, dad next to me here, and then I was driving that venture, So I got quite used to the open road, and it's something I would rather drive 14 hours to Joburg than go 1 hour shopping at Pick n Pay. You know what I mean?
By far.
You know what I mean?
By far.
Exactly. So that's it. I've driven a lot of cars up and down, a lot of experiences. Sometimes I've broken down. Sometimes I ran out of petrol. So the open road experience is it's rewarding for me. It's a therapy.
I'm sure some very memorable open road drives or longer trips come to mind. Tell me about
every
what
year
car.
It's a different experience.
Tell me about the cars. Tell me about the
one that really stood out was the last one. It was earlier this year. We had a show in July at Ushaka, and
Which is so cool, by the way. I love that idea. Like the whole family vibe.
It's a family, so it must be a family environment.
Yes.
So me and wifey decided to drive the E60 M5 up to Durban. And that, I was dreading the road to Durban because it's different to the road to Joburg. You go to Bloemfontein, and from Bloemfontein you branch off to go to Durban via Senegal, Bethlehem. But that road is crap. Trucks on that road, potholes, whatever. So the idea was to go from here to Bloemfontein, stay over in Bloemfontein, and then the next day trek to Durban. But when we left here, the roads are very busy when you leave here. The trucks up until Laingsburg or Three Sisters.
No,
after Three Sisters, and then the road is open. So we left here in the afternoon about maybe 4 o'clock. 4 o'clock, and then I got to Bloemfontein like 12 o'clock the evening, but I was wide awake, you know. So I said, we're not going to sleep now because I'm just going to be restless. Let's carry on, let's move and see where we stop and get tired. And the roads were very quiet that night because it was like 12. So between 12 to 6 o'clock, then we pushed right through and we made it into Durban. So that was a non-stop drive.
Sure.
But with that E60 M5, it was brilliant because you come up, the roads weren't that busy in the night. So you come up to a truck, you just, you look at any trucks coming on, and then you just put your indicator, floor it, and then you go, in a couple of seconds you pass the truck, you know. So there was no hesitation. Yeah. Whereas as the previous trip with the 735, there was a lot of braking. Yes. You come up to a truck, the trucks don't pull over. You know, you got to brake, you got to pick up speed. The automatic box is a bit slow. You know, so it was a very frustrating trip up to Durban with the 735. Coming back was a bit different. That was cool. But with this E60 M5, going up to Durban was just, and doing it in that time, without really pushing it. You know.
Yes.
It was amazing.
And that car just loved to stretch his legs.
It didn't know it, and that was after we rebuilt the motor. Remember.
Yes.
From the time we rebuilt the motor, from April 2023 till now, I did 10,000 Ks with the car, with the M5.
From April until now.
From April, so that's April,
yeah, that's a healthy distance.
May, June, July, August, September, October, November.
Basically 7 months.
Yeah, 7 months.
Yeah, that is quite a healthy distance.
Because when I went to Durban, we flew back. Then I left the car there, and then 2 weeks later, we flew back to Durban, picked the M5 up and drove the M5 to Joburg.
Sure. How
so
cool is
for
that?
the BMW concourse, because we were invited there and we had to stand
that's
there.
Awesome.
So I was going to exhibit that car there. So that car from Cape Town, it's been to Knysna, it's been to Durban, it's been to Joburg, and then back.
It's been to Knysna, raced at Knysna, come back.
Yeah,
Very
exactly.
Cool.
Yeah.
So you've spoken a lot about your M5, but I'm sure you have some other babies in the stable as well. But tell me a bit about the cars you've had over the years, some of the favorite ones you have now.
Sure. My first car, I got a photo of it here somewhere. If you want to see the photo, it's in that album, that Stripe album there. So my first car was a 160 Corolla, 1996 160 Corolla that I bought in about
Classic.
1999. Brilliant car. Only thing the top speed would cut off at 195. It would literally cut off, you know. So you couldn't go faster than that in that car. But it was a cool car, very cool car. It had this lowering kit and wheels and, all that. When you have your first car in your early 20s, and then that's, what you want to do. That car got written off maybe a year later, not by me, but my brother. It got written off. And after that, I bought a 333i.
Wow.
So that was my first BMW.
That is quite a jump.
From a 1.64 cylinder to a 3.2 liter 6-cylinder. Very good jump. But I've always wanted a 333. So that time it was still the Auto Trader book.
Yes.
We flipped through the pages. It was in 2001. So I don't know, when are you born?
2000.
2000. So you were 1 year old when I was flipping through the pages. And then I saw 333 there advertised for about 30,000 rand.
I literally can't comprehend what that must be in those days.
Yeah. So the next day I went to go see it. I went to go buy it. It ended up being a friend of the boss's, whatever.
Yes.
So we went to go buy it. And that car, very unreliable.
Very unreliable.
In the first couple of years that I had it. overheating issues, you know. But I don't think it was so looked after. That's why it was probably that price. It was very looked after. So over the years, I attended to it. We rebuilt the motor, we resprayed it, we fixed up the... But that car also, I drove thrice from Joburg to Cape Town. Sure. Once alone, you know. Come December holidays, we were closed up in Joburg. Shit, what am I going to do now for the week? So on my way back home, I just phoned my mom, I'm going to go to Cape Town. She said, where are you going? Now I'm going to go alone. So I left there 3 o'clock the afternoon, and I got into Long Street at 2 o'clock the morning.
2 o'clock,
yeah, straight into Long Street there. So that was, with that car, I enjoyed a lot of driving as well.
Yo. So that was a 330 or 333i, which is a South African classic.
Classic, yeah. So I enjoyed, cool you know, with today's, the value of the cars is like 2 million, 1.5, 2 million. And I'm afraid guys won't enjoy it the way we enjoyed it there those days, you know.
It's too valuable.
Yeah, so I could really enjoy that car, and I'm fortunate to have had that experience. In April 2008, Top Car did a feature on the car, Top Car magazine.
That car?
The same car at Killarney.
Very cool.
And then about 2 months after that, I sold it.
Okay.
To one of the guys on the E30 forum.
Was that just ready to move on to something else?
No, that was life just happened that time, and I had to sell it. But people always ask me, "No, don't you regret selling it?" I say, "Well, I enjoyed it." So no, really, you know, in life, if you have regrets, you'll never move on. You know. So, but today I'm able to enjoy it with the V10.
Yes.
Those same experiences. So yeah, I'm okay with that. I've had my joy. I've had my experience with the 333.
Yes.
And nothing could replace that. Yeah.
Was there any other cars in between? Any other special ones?
I had a Golf 2. I had a Corolla RXi. While I had a 333, because that 333 I used to use weekdays. So
yes.
Any other car. So the RXi was a 6-speed. I really wanted one of those. And very good car, very nice car, but you have to always be in that rev range to enjoy it. You know, that 6 to 8,000 rev range to enjoy it.
It is high.
Yeah. So, but a very good car. But I sold that car when I got to Cape Town. Then I bought a few other E30s, 320, 318s, 316s, E36s we had, 325s. Now I've got a 320, which I've still got now. It's got over 500,000 Ks on the clock.
Yeah.
I use that basically as a bakkie, you know.
500,000.
500,000 Ks, yeah.
Still going strong.
Still going strong, yeah.
That's awesome.
So that I've still got. What else? I had an E12. I love an E12. So that I sold to my brother in Joburg. E90 is good. E90 is the same generation as the E60. There's a big difference to the E36 simplicity and the E90. Because E90, every time you're getting it, it just bong, bong, you know that?
The sort of start of the tech
it's like,
in cars.
That's an irritating sound. And it's good for anything, seat belt or
open door,
or light is not working,
boots not closed,
anything. It's just bong, you know, it's like, shut up. So that's a new generation of cars, you know, and I think the E36, E46 is the most balanced BMW because you got the reliability, you got the looks, and you've got that. It's a nice drive, you know. It's a solid drive.
Yes.
So anything.
It's a solid car.
Yeah. After that, it's too much for me. So basic E36, E46 is brilliant. Yeah. I've actually never had a E46. I've driven a lot of E46s, M3s, 330s, but never had a E46. My 735. You know, if you talk about cars that you regret selling, I don't like regret, but that 735 was just brilliant because...
Which generation was that?
That was the 1989 E32.
Oh, yes. Okay.
So it was the first, second generation of 7 Series. And I remember also that car because when we were young, we were like maybe 8-9 years old, my granddad bought a new one. And he came down from Joburg to Cape Town to visit us with it. And we went back driving, me and my little brother, we went back driving to Joburg with my grandparents in that car. You know, so it always has that memory. And that's the first time when we saw the BMs that when it was dark, the window switches used to glow in the dark, you know, all that stuff. So that one, that 735, I bought it, drove it up to Durban, it came back. And because on the Instagram, I posted it for sale, and this one guy in Klerksdorp saw the car, and he was interested. I phoned him. I video called. I said, Uncle Salim, I'll phone you now. The car is here outside. Let me video call you. Take you through the car. If you're happy, you can buy it. And I did that. And at the end of the call, he said, just send me your banking details. I'm sending the truck on Tuesday.
Sure.
And he just bought it, And that car, it was clean. It was a good drive. But I'll find another 7 Series again. So if you look at the open road trips, from here to Joburg.
Yes, that's the perfect.
The 7 Series is a perfect car, yeah.
I think that is also that generation around the 90s of 7 Series S-Class. That was the over-engineered, super plush luxury, but not because of technology, of luxury.
Just super engineered. No, but when you look at the
engine was so.
I'm not sure Merc's codes, but those E-Class. For me, a Merc is an E-Class and up. The C-Class is just crap. The C-Class was just there because BMW was taking the market with the 3 Series. So Merc couldn't, Merc had to do something. But if you look at older Mercs from the E-Class, the way they were built, the way they would drive, S-Class, a 7 Series could never touch an S-Class. The S-Class was your pinnacle of luxury. It would set the bar of what cars should have in terms of comfort, in terms of new technology. The S-Class was always up there. The 7 Series is more for a guy that wants to drive his own car, but be in luxury, whereas the S-Class is a guy that wants to be driven.
Yes.
Because the 7 Series was always big, you still feel that little characteristic, BMW characteristic that you get in the E30 or 5 Series or whatever. So huge respect for Merc. They've always known what they built. But with their C-Class and A-Class, no, I think they lost the plot there. It was more for profit. So,
I guess that's part of the corporate motive when it comes to car companies.
They have
as well.
To survive.
Like we were speaking before the podcast about companies like Ferrari having to be bought over.
Just to survive.
I can remember Porsche. In late 90s, early 2000s, they were in massive financial troubles. And then what was the product of that, or the savior, was the Porsche Cayenne.
Correct,
which absolutely carried that company.
Yeah, 100%.
So there were so many companies. Ford, early, I think also in the 2000s, around there, or maybe a bit earlier, also massive financial issues. Had to almost go bankrupt, and then Alan Mullally came in and basically saved the company. But that was an interesting case where the company sort of forgot their identity, because when you would walk into the C-suite car park, it would be Astons and Ferraris, just other cars, not Fords at all. Forgotten that they work at Ford. Correct, but it's become a group of companies rather than Ford Motor Company.
Yeah, which is a supplier of motor vehicles to the middle class.
So for many car companies, I think that's the case where some still do it very well. I think like Porsche, BMW, they do it very well, where they still create this absolute passionate drivers' cars. These days, people go crazy over the M3 Touring, M5 Touring that's coming out. M5 CS is an unbelievable car. And Porsche's GT division obviously is just unbelievable. But then your company is basically carried by your basic 3 Series.
There we go.
Your Porsche Cayennes or so on, or your X5s or whatever.
Yeah.
So, but thanks a lot for those, because that means you still get to enjoy.
Yeah, they can still keep our passion fire burning, That's it,
But going off of passionate cars, obviously you have, and the E60 is just, at the moment, you're enjoying it so much. But what are the bucket list cars you'd really still want to experience? Not necessarily own, but just those cars you really like, almost last off.
Yeah, the M5 CS is definitely. I mean, there's only 5, I think, 10 in the country that came out priced at like 3 million.
Yes. No,
it's going up to, if you want to buy one, people are going to ask not less than 5 million. It's a car, and any M5 when they were produced in their time was like a supercar with 4 doors. That's a M5, how you describe an M5. And you could race Ferraris, you could race Lamborghinis, But the M5 CS is like a M5 Plus, like you get the iPhone Pro or something.
Yes.
That's a M5 Pro because that thing is just a beast. I mean, the way they put bucket seats at the back even, the color that it came out. So definitely M5 CS.
I think
definitely.
That car's so cool.
So my passion would be, I'd say Japanese is Toyota. So definitely LFA.
Yes.
Also V10 motor. But
which is like, there will not be another car like that from them.
There will be another car like
because that was literally a statement car for them. That it's
I
the
think,
best they can do.
Like Clarkson said, even if they try and remake it again, they won't get it right away, because somehow they just got that package perfect. Yes. So the LFA is definitely a car. What else? M5 CS, definitely Toyota is, and then BMW. After BMW, it's Ferrari. So I love a Ferrari. That is my
What
ultimate.
kind of Ferraris are we looking at here?
Sure.
Are we looking at the V8s?
F12, TDF, V12s.
V12s.
But those supercars, you have to have a V12. Sometimes, like 488s, like for example, the F40 had a V8 turbo. So V8s I can live with. But V12s is the ultimate. You always want a V12 motor. For example, I think, going away from Ferrari, but for the V12 motor, like when I look at the Urus, Lamborghini Urus, and they put the V8 in there, I couldn't understand that. If they wanted to make that like a special Lamborghini, that thing should have had a V12 in it.
Pierre is saying Ferrari, that's basically what they did.
Put
a V12 in. Yeah.
Put a V12 in it. So that's something I think Lamborghini made a huge mistake, and that just shows, that it's handled by BMW. The Germans have the last say, rather than the Italians. And so that was a mistake from Lamborghini. That's just a point I wanted to make.
But it's selling. Like the Urus is selling very well.
Yeah, I mean, when you go to Joburg, you see that. Oh, it's amazing,
it's crazy,
for that price. So Ferrari, the TDF is amazing. The LaFerrari is, that we only see on TV,
It's unbelievable how that the LaFerrari P1, the 918, that Holy Trinity, it's 10 years old now.
Yeah.
And it might as well have been released this year.
There's a LaFerrari here in South Africa.
I know there is.
And a P1.
There's two LaFerraris.
Yeah.
I think Selwyn Chats
owns both.
Yeah. So
he's out here in Gordons Bay, you know that.
Yeah. Well, isn't he back more Paul's side now of Aldevi? Because do you know about ACS that he opened?
Yeah, I know. I haven't been there, yeah.
I haven't been there as well.
Something grand a month to store your car there.
I guess he's aiming for a certain market,
No, but he's got that market.
Yeah.
There is that people that are willing to, that market is here in South Africa. Lucky people.
Yeah.
But they keep the car passion going,
We don't have a lot. We don't have the caliber or the amount of high caliber, high quality supercars like the UK has or that Europe has. So the fact that those cars are in the country, and obviously we don't see them a lot, but for us it's even more special.
Yeah, you should have. I think Salman should one day you should book out Kilani.
Yes.
And you should take all his cars for an exhibition and invite the public to come and see. I think you should do that,
Like, we don't have to drive it. I just want to see the wire go around.
We'll spectate. Like, it'll be an open track day. We'll spectate. And then him and his crew can take all his cars around. I think that will be a nice feature for him,
I think that it basically comes down to sort of the ethos of what you're doing with SA Beemer as well. For the people who don't necessarily own the cars as well, to be able to experience or see that.
Like, you get a lot of guys that will say, I've never seen an E30 M3 before. I've never seen a 333 before. I've never seen a 65. Or like when we had our last event at the castle, we had BMW South Africa bring the red M1 down,
that's
right?
Awesome.
So we had it at the castle. And there's a lot of kids that have never seen that before. They've only seen it on posters, and so that's what we like to do. Is we like to showcase it to the general public. Kids that it will cause emotion and happiness, and that's it. We opened when the M1 was there. We opened the motor. We started it up, and you wouldn't get to see that anywhere else, and that's what we like to do.
I love that.
Passionate.
Shiraz, thanks a lot. I appreciate your time in the chat.
Cool.
I think it was a good one. I think we can go on for much longer, but
definitely.
I think this is good enough for now.
Yeah.
But please keep on doing what you're doing. I think the idea and the heart around the passion and the community that you're carrying with SA Beemer as well is just bringing a lot of joy and fun into the car culture as well in this country. So hope you enjoy it. And as I usually say, rather love cars because it's better than drugs.
Yeah, exactly. We get a lot of people that come in here, and because all my stuff is here at work, you get a lot of couples that come in here, and the wives are looking at their stuff, and the husbands are looking at my car books or whatever.
Yes.
And we get into the conversation, and then the wife comes in. Wife will tell the husband, "Oh, but you had that, or you have enough cars." And I tell the wives, rather we have 3 cars and 3 wives, right?
Yes, for sure.
Then they understand it better.
I love that. Okay. Cheers, guys.
Okay, cheers. Thank you.